Let's do it. Hello, and welcome to our newest and latest live stream, which is looking at and exploring the Chronicles of the Upheavals. Some of you read this when it first came out some years ago, and others are getting introduced to it now through this live stream and purchasing the book now. And some of you have never heard of this before, in which case, welcome, and you'll see what we are going to be talking about. What we usually do in the beginning of a live stream to settle ourselves and to settle each other and to get ourselves a new way of looking at the world so that we don't take our old thinking into our new setting. What we do is meditate for 5 minutes, and we are going to do that. I'm getting my meditation device here, my stopwatch, my digital stopwatch, and I don't have my candle up. This is a new live stream, new slides, and so I don't have that slide ready. So you can look at me. I won't be that shy. I'll go ahead and get started and invite you, if you are comfortable, to close your eyes. If you are not, you can leave them open. I'm going to invite you to take a few deep breaths. And let out the deep breath audibly. And as you feel comfortable, will invite you to come back to our center and let us begin. Uh, I want to talk about um, the the genesis of the book, the Chronicles of the Upheavals, and kind of where it originated from. Well, first of all, I have been thinking about and focused on our common human future for a long time. Um, it's it's um, it's interesting how so few of us think about our future, and I think it's interesting to see how few of us focus on anything other than a techno future, our future on the moon, or our future with ever more sophisticated technology, software, AI, etc. I've been focused on, what are human beings doing in all of this, and the answer to that is kind of bleak. We don't know a great deal about what we are doing and how we're doing it, and I think that's really too bad. Um, so all this was on my mind some years ago when I went on this around the world journey. Um, uh, Looking for um, the name of the journey was the Sacred Civilization Journey. And those of you who are part of the crowdfunding campaign that paid for it, I'm sure you still remember it. And the question was, I wanted to know how did our ancestors do all the things they were purported to do? How did they build the pyramids? How did they communicate with each other without talking? How did they move from one area to the other um, instantaneously without any mechanisms? So I wound up in the Himalayas in a cave at the 5,000, at the 15,000 foot level, um, meditating, and I got a download. And I've talked about that download from time to time. I'm willing to talk about it more if anybody's interested. But one of the things that happened during this download was that I got zapped two books. One of them is my usual style of nonfiction, kind of 3D based writing. Um, and the other was this book of speculative fiction. And when I say download, I mean I I'm sitting in meditation in this cave, which is an old temple of some kind, set in the side of a mountain. And it was so old, it was unclear whose temple it was. It could have been a Buddhist temple, but it could have been a temple from the Bon religion, which preceded Buddhism. And they're the ones that had all the that people say had all the things happening to them, the being able to walk through walls and things like that. So I'm meditating and I'm getting information, and all of a sudden it's like zap, an entire book is in my head. It just went like, oh, there's a book, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I sat a little longer, and then zap, there's another book. And I immediately started writing the nonfiction because I've never written fiction before, and it felt weird. So the universe, in its infinite wisdom, dried up my my nonfiction writing. I couldn't write anything. I mean, I was trying for months and months, and nothing was coming. So I said, "Let me try doing this fiction," and it flowed. And so, what flowed from that was what I have entitled the Chronicles of the Upheavals. The basic premise of the book is that think about all of the different things that could happen to humanity over the course of the next, let's say, 20 to 40 years. All of the problems that we've got, all of the challenges that we've got, and all of the limited thinking that makes all of those things worse. Okay, so kind of think about that and think that it all happens. Now we've got this notion in our heads that things will happen sequentially, so that when we have a water crisis, either too much, which the world is facing right now, or too little, which the world is also facing right now, um, we'll do something and that'll work out. And then when we have electricity problem, well, we'll do something else and that'll work out. And then when we have a political problem or a war problem, we'll do something else and that'll work out. And it doesn't work like that. It isn't working like that. We're having all the crises at the same time, and then we're going to have even more. So our challenge is, can we face these challenges, and can we face them with a new mind or a new direction? So the people in so the book is set in the year 2125, 100 years in the future. And all of the crises have happened, and a group of us have helped to steer humanity out of the problems and into a whole new way of acting. So 100 years from now, we're not doing war anymore. We're not doing poverty anymore. We're not doing hunger anymore. We just don't, we stop acting like humanity is divided, and we start acting like we are one mature species living on a very dynamic but very finite planet. So the folks 100 years from now, our future, said, we want to write down all the things that we did that got us to the point where we can live in a society that doesn't have war and that doesn't have hunger and doesn't have poverty and has all of the healing that we need to have within ourselves, within our communities, and with all of the human beings that are on the planet, and all in cooperation, in holonic cooperation with all other beings. So the earth starts acting like all of us are pulling in the same direction. So what I want to do over the course of the next 7 or 8 sessions is explore 7 or 8 themes that are in the Chronicles of the Upheavals, so that we can start looking at these things together, and that we can start the process of us becoming the word is I keep saying mature, but I don't really mean mature um, um, because we don't know what that looks like. We don't know what it acts like. We don't know how to act as though we were one species. Right now, we're trying to act as though people who call themselves Israelis and people who call themselves Palestinians, living on the same piece of dirt, the same earth, see themselves as so different that they have to kill each other. we have to outgrow the thinking that makes both of these groups believe that they are different. And that is true for any group that sees itself as different from any other group. Okay, so what we're going to do, what I want to do is share my screen with you. And what I want to do is here we go. Is before we back to me for a second. So I wrote the book, and then a friend of mine, Elijah Hassan, a superior videographer, said, "Why don't we do a sight reading?" And so I said, "What's a sight reading?" Which is probably what some of you have said also. And he said, that's when you get some people together not to act out the book. Some of them have never seen the book, but just to get them to read out loud from the book so that they can get, so that people can get a feel for the fact that there's more than one voice, etc. So I'm going to introduce this video from some years ago, and we're going to go from here. And I'm hoping everybody can hear this. Let me pause it here and say a little bit more than that before we go into our these chapters that are really like 1 or 2 page vignettes of what's going on in the world. And the notion, and I say this in the actual paper introduction to the book, the notion that the world has changed so much that all of the records that we are keeping, especially the digital records, were destroyed. All the newspapers are destroyed. This is when the bottom drops out of the entire society, the entire civilization. So the only thing they have to go on are the records that they themselves, the people in these awakening centers, have been keeping. And those records tend to be dialogues. So the book is written heavily focused on dialogue. The book requires the reader to take their consciousness and their imagination and inject it into uh, the 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 society, to create the society in their own minds. Now, some people are uncomfortable with that. They're used to having somebody tell them what they're thinking and what they ought to be thinking. I'm not doing that. Um, uh-oh. And Eve said, you didn't hear anything that I said. Oh, gee. Well, this is not, if you don't hear it, you there's no sense in doing that. Let me try one thing here, and then share tab audio. Oh, okay. I think I just answered the issue here. It said share the tab audio. Now, if you had any idea how many tabs I've got open, maybe 100 or so. So I'm going to have to reduce that a bit. Bear with me, please. Ta-da! Who says I can't find it? Let's try this again. And thank you, Eve, for telling me that, because I could have wasted a lot of your time. Let's try one more time. Oops.
The reason that I wrote the book Chronicles of the Upheavals is right over my shoulder. The reason I wrote the book is that we're not really talking about science fiction. We're talking about right now, and what are we going to do about the conditions right now. The book is set 100 years in the future, from the year 2125, and it makes the assumption that humanity makes it. We make it through all of the disasters that are facing us right now and will face us in the future. Our ecological disasters, our financial disasters, our social cultural disasters, and our social, spiritual, and consciousness disasters. We make it through all of this, we make it past it, but not all of us make it. The book assumes that up to 3 billion human beings die over the next 100 years. These folks in the future decide to put together a history of how did we make it through to a society that works for all? How did we create the new systems and structures of that society?
Let me pause here and ask the question, did you hear anything? Because if you're still not hearing it, then I'm going to move on to something else. If you're now hearing it, I'll go on and We'll do the first one or two of the vignettes for you. So I'm looking in my comments section. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing that you're seeing it, hearing it. I'm not seeing that you're not hearing it. It would be helpful if I could get something back from you. Yes, it worked. Thank you. So I am now going to do the second part, and then I'm going to go right into the vignettes.
Part of the story is told by news clips that are scattered throughout the Chronicles. These stories give a picture of what's happening on the outside as the people on the inside of the Awakening Center are creating new systems and structures, a new society.
When the upheavals happened, they didn't happen all at once. They didn't happen to everyone evenly. They were not uniform in their results. Some effects were remote and isolated. Some systems failures triggered others. Most were recurring. From the beginning, the goal of the awakening movement was not to ameliorate the effects of the mess. In the caterpillar, the systems and structures break down, a necessary step in the formation of the flying beauty of a butterfly. The goal was not to prevent what was happening. The goal was to create new systems and structures, ones that respond to the needs of the butterfly. In the face of major conflagrations, the awakening centers guarded their water supplies. This was not a lack of compassion. This was triage.
Several U.S. cities have major fires raging out of control, spread by a combination of unprecedented heat, social unrest, and failing municipal services. We don't know where to start. We don't know what's feeding it. It should have burned out by now. There's nothing left to burn. I don't know what to do, said Chief Ken Simmons of the fire-weary Kansas City Fire Department. We've got firefighters passing out from exhaustion. I haven't slept in 3 days. Our water is running low, and the fire still spreads. At some point, we're going to have to pull back, cut our losses. Kansas City is not the only urban area to experience runaway fires. In Rapid City, the local fire department has issued the first citywide evacuation since Hurricane Katrina nearly 3 decades ago. Chief William Smythe said, when those gas lines exploded, it was all over. There's nothing we can do besides get people out of the way. The asphalt streets are burning. I didn't know anything could get that hot. The streets melted one of our fire trucks. The only thing we can do is to get people out of the way. We don't even know how far we have to run. Things are not so grim in Richmond, Virginia. We've been blessed to have a river running through our city, said Chief Chuck Barker. We've got 3 fireboats going full blast, aimed at the downtown business district. Not a single ember is getting by us. The people on the streets are not so happy about that news. Yeah, they're protecting downtown, but they're letting whole neighborhoods burn. Look, the fire's only 10 blocks away, and we haven't seen a fire truck all day. Chief Barker was sober in his response. That's not an accident. We've had to make some hard choices here. We simply don't have the resources to fight every fire in every neighborhood. If we tried, we'd lose everything, including the places we tried to save. Some areas are just going to have to be sacrificed for the greater good. Said another resident, why come all the neighborhoods being sacrificed are black? Why come rich white folks ain't sacrificed?
Okay. So that was those were 2 vignettes. And what we're about to go into, and we're not going to go into today, is one of the longer chapters that starts laying out the dynamic of how people change inside this awakening center. if we go back to some of the things that were said, and I'm looking in my uh, comments box to see if there are any that are going to come up that we can talk about. I first started talking about the overall background of the Chronicles. And one thing I said, and this is something that came through very loud and clear when I was being gifted the book in the Himalayas, was that half of humanity died in the process of us becoming a mature human society. All my life, I've been seeing on the horizon this catastrophe, and I've been doing everything I can do to um, either stop the catastrophe as a whole or to lessen the impact of the catastrophe. And I realized that that is not the process that we should be engaged in. In a way, it's hard because the people that are caught up in the catastrophe are our friends, our loved ones, maybe even ourselves if we're not willing to let go of the processes that we see. Um, when I talk about that in, which grab the right book, in the Birthing the Nation of Gaia, where in the birthing process, things get messy. Things get, let's just call it downright inconvenient. Things get, the process is painful, from the kind of grinding pain of when your back hurts and you've been carrying around this bowling ball in your belly for what you think is way too long. Um, for the process of the actual labor contractions that can be very painful and go on for a very long time. But we endure that because we know that the result of that is a baby. We will endure the different challenges that are coming up for us as we are birthing our societal baby. I was meeting with a group of students, and some of them were taking issue with the birthing metaphor that, in birthing the nation of Gaia, I don't make that pretty. It's not pretty. It's amazing how women have more than one baby. After the first one, it's like, oh, I'm not doing that again. And some do, but a lot don't. A lot say, let's go and do this again. And so our challenge is, can we see beyond the discomfort, the pain, the wars? Can we see beyond the violence and the tents piled up on our streets and the homeless people? Can we see beyond all of that? And can we see into the kind of society that we want to live in? The society that works for all living beings? Can we see into the process of a world that works for all living beings? So emphatic resonance, I don't know what your name that I would call you is, says it's a mess, but it winds up being beautiful. I choose to believe. Yes, and it's actually more than belief. It's knowing. It's you know it. When, if you're going through 12 hours of labor and you're only on the fourth hour, it's we're talking about uphill, 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 but you know that something beautiful is going to come from that. And you hang in there, not because you got a whole lot of choice, but you hang in there with the process, knowing that you become a larger person through this process, through all of the stuff that happens. And all of it is part of a divine process. Regardless of what your religious teachings are, and I'm not pushing any religion, as you know, I don't do that, but I am promoting a view of spirituality where you know right here. You don't have to know up here. You know right here what's going on. So we are going to keep looking at this, and we'll do. We're going to go into another section here, starting on Thursday. I had a question from Eric earlier today. He said, I'm looking forward to tonight's reading and future readings. Are we going to start from the beginning and work through sequentially, or will you leave it open for the group to decide? It's going to be, the answer to that is it's going to be open-ish. Okay. I want to cover some things. Okay. But I'm going to cover them in the order and uh, in the direction that we want. I know, for example, a lot of us who have read, who actually read the book, Chronicles of the Upheavals, they wanted to. They had a number of people have had some very difficult a difficult time. I'm trying to dress this up. They didn't like the sections that were involved with what's called unity. I'm not going to go into unity right now. Um, Unity are people who took holonic consciousness to a much deeper level where they actually become one being. So human beings, with lots and lots of bodies, but one thought. And people who read those sections said, I don't like that. I don't want us to go there. Great. Now you know that's a place that we could go, and you don't want to go there. So when we start talking about creating a world that works for all living beings, that's a place you don't want to go. The reason it's in the book is for you to decide whether or not that's a place you want to go. So you, as a group, you may want to talk about unity first. There are a number of sections where I talk about introducing new technologies. How do you move goods and services and people from one end of this country to the other when the roads aren't safe, when cars don't have any gas, when the rail system has fallen completely apart? How do where do you do the uh, how do you get a bushel of corn from over here to over there? How do you get water from the places where it's too much water to the places where it's too little water. Well, I talk about all that in the book. And so we may want to talk about that first. There are a number of chapters in the book that are focused on security. These awakening centers are able to feed themselves, are able to grow their own food, are able to house the people who are living there. And there's tens of thousands of hungry, starving people who want to come in there and want to get your food. Okay. How do you stop that from happening? Within your values. I mean, one way to stop it from happening is get a whole bunch of guns and put them up on the walls and shoot everybody that comes anywhere near your wall. That is called old consciousness. That's called breaker consciousness. We don't do that. Some people think, oh, just open the gates and bring everybody in and we'll all just love each other and we don't have to worry about security. Well, that's a recipe for a very, very short experiment. That won't work. So somewhere between shoot them all and open the gates and sing Kumbaya, somewhere in there you've got to deal with security. And there's several ideas on how to deal with security that's in there. So if you have if you've read the book and you say, I want to talk about the new communications that you've got, the new communication lines that you've got. If you want to talk about the banned books, and if you've read Chronicles of the Upheavals, there's a number of books in there that Congress has banned, and we can talk about that. We can talk about the organization of these awakening centers, which is very, very different. We talk about anything that's inside the covers of the book. A couple of things, and then I will wrap up. Those of you who have read the book, this is a great opportunity to reread it. I've reread it a couple of times, and I know this sounds self-serving and egotistical, but this is a really good book. I'm pointing. I've enjoyed writing it, and I've enjoyed the editing process, and I've also enjoyed working with the people who have helped me to steer the book. If you haven't gotten the book yet, as I said in the flyer that I just sent out, the book is on sale right now. A pretty deep sale, 20% plus free shipping. And so get the book as soon as you can and start reading it. And I will suggest you skipping a few chapters so that, the ones that we will be focusing on, we will focus on. For those of you who we don't have, who are not going to buy the book, or you want the book but you don't have the money for it, talk to me. Send me an email, mail@commonway.org, and let me know what's going on, and I'll see what I can do. We're here to spread the ideas, not to make the payments on my Maserati. That's called a joke. So let's wrap up for today. Our next session will be in 2 days on Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll go into more of the video readings of the chapters, and we'll see where that will take us. Okay, as we wrap up in general, we're going to do our inclusivity mantra. For those of you who get twitchy when I use the P word, prayer, and we're going to focus first on ourselves. We'll then focus on the other, whoever your other is. We'll focus on each other, and then at the end we'll focus on all beings. So may I be well. May I be secure. May I be happy. May you be well. May you be secure. May you be happy. May we be well. May we be secure. May we be happy. And may all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. I will, if you've got other comments to make, I'll be looking on all 3 of the streams for the comments. You can make comments directly to mail@commonway.org. One way or another, I look forward to seeing you this coming Thursday at 6 o'clock. Thanks a lot. Bye.